Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Never Seen It. My name is Trent. I'm sitting here with Betsy.
That's me.
Back again for another entry into Sci-Fi Sunday. If it's Sunday and it's April 2025, it is Sci-Fi Sunday.
It's a very niche window of time.
That's right.
Certain parameters that must be met.
Never gonna be done ever again. All right, Betsy, we're going to be going into another sci-fi movie, of course, that we have not seen. The rest of the movies going forward, neither of us have seen. But today, we kind of teased this last year at some point. We wanted to do some sequels to some movies that we've already covered in the sci-fi vein. Today's entry is going to be Tron Legacy, the sequel to Tron from 1982 that we did in our Hacker series, I don't know, like 1 or 2 years ago. It's been a while. And thankfully, to prepare, we rewatched Tron last night just to kind of get our mind back into it and re-listen to the episode and whatever else. But Betsy, we haven't seen this movie yet. What do you know about Tron Legacy, the sequel?
So obviously this movie came out almost 30 years after the original Tron came out. It came out in 2010. I know that Jeff Bridges returns.
Yep.
Like they were doing with legacy sequels starting in like the 2010s, 2010s. There's a whole new generation of people. So I think there's a kid playing his son. As far as the actual plot, we didn't rewatch a trailer for this, but
No.
I remember when it was in the theater. I think Flynn gets sucked back into the machine.
Yeah, I remember we were very intrigued to see, well, what the hell is Tron Legacy after Tron? And we watched a couple of clips or maybe even a trailer
We
for
probably
Tron
watched a
Legacy
trailer.
immediately after watching Tron. And to be honest, we kind of wanted to keep on going with this, so, and unfortunately we had to wait until we did a sci-fi series in order to do this, so here we are. But you're right, I think this is a new generation. There's been a whole big technological leap here, not only in the real world, but in the world of Tron. So, what do you do with new technology, new internet, new computers, new everything?
And this one is like a rescue mission because his dad has been sucked into the game and now the kid has to get sucked into the game, I think.
I have no idea.
I'm not really sure. I just know they're taking all of the iconic things that came out of Tron, like those light motorcycle things that
Yeah.
are driving around, and they amped that up. They do that again, but in a newer 2010 kind of way.
And last night we were kind of talking about the legacy of Tron and the things that people took out of this movie and just glommed onto. Because Tron as a movie was never thought about as a franchise or they're going to do a sequel to it. So the movie has just been kind of there languishing, and more people are discovering it and really appreciating what it was in 82.
It kind of became a cult classic.
Yeah.
Because I didn't watch Tron until we did it for that series. And as you touched on, I was very ready in that moment after watching Tron to hit play because we were doing it on Disney Plus. And of course it says, do you want to watch Tron Legacy?
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of did, but we had to record the episode for Tron.
Yeah.
And watching it again last night, I remember, okay, yeah, there's not a lot to this movie. It's just what could we do with the technology in 1982? The actual plot is very, very minimal. Now,
Yeah.
that approach doesn't really work in 2010, so I'm sure there's going to be much more complexity to the story, a lot more
I hope so.
development, and they're going to play a lot with the technology.
Yeah, I think over the years that Tron has been out there, a bunch of fucking nerds have extrapolated extra things from the movie that were not intended, and maybe we're going to get more of that like crossover between the cyber world and the real world and other ways of getting into cyberspace. I have no idea.
And if we're picking up where the story left off, so to speak, at the end of Tron, he is like in charge of the company now because
Right.
they were successful in their mission. They hacked the system. They got the data they needed and they took out the bad guy. Now he's in charge. Movie fucking ends.
Yeah, just as a refresher
Cold
for the
end.
movie of Tron, basically the only reason why the movie is going to go on here is because Flynn, the Jeff Bridges character, he made a bunch of games that the head of the company stole from him. Basically, this is a movie about intellectual property rights, and the company that is surrounding these games is wildly successful. Well, it's stolen. So Flynn gets fired, he goes into the system, he rewrites the ownership of the games, and by golly, he is now the head of the company.
So it begs the question, are we going to be in a world of gaming? Are we going to be in a kind of different world of technology?
Or do they retcon it to have that not be a thing?
Maybe.
I don't know.
Lots of questions.
All those should be answered when we go and watch Tron Legacy right now. We will be right back. And we have returned from the game grid. Betsy, what did you think of Tron Legacy?
That was really cool, and I quite enjoyed that movie.
All right.
I was having fun. Like it's the kind of thing where clearly it helps if you have seen Tron. Like
Well, obviously.
there is enough in this movie where you kind of need to understand who those characters were to get this movie. But I would almost argue you could just watch this movie blind, like without having any of the context. I think you're just going to enjoy it a lot more if you've seen Tron.
Of course, like you could go to this movie having never seen the first Tron and just look at the pretty lights and just see how cool everything is and how everything sounds. And yeah, it's a cool looking and sounding movie in and of its own. But when you have the legacy of the original Tron movie in your head and knowing what technology has done and where like Jeff Bridges as a man has really gone in his life, I think this is a great testament to the world that was built in 1982.
And also just how far computer-generated imaging has gone. Because we
Sure.
talked about it at length when we watched Tron. That was one of the first movies to really utilize that technology. To the point, the Academy was like, no, you're not eligible for special effects because
You used computers.
Yeah, we
You
don't
cheated.
understand. We don't understand what that is. We'll give
Yeah.
you a special award over here for recognizing that you did some good
Yeah,
work, but
like,
you don't
this
get
is-
an award.
Yeah, like this is cool, but you don't get to play with the big boys over here
Yes.
because you cheated in the eyes of the Academy.
Meanwhile, you jump forward to 2010, and isn't it incredible what people are able to achieve, what the digital artists are allowed to do when you leave them the time and the resources to do it? In 2025, they're trying to cram out as much crap as they can, and we get these $300 million movies that look like garbage. They look like absolute garbage, and it is uninspired technology. It is just icky. It's
They at
easy.
least they overuse it, or
Yes.
they use it as a crutch rather than letting the real artists do their work and have a vision of a world. I was remarking when we first started to get into the digital world here that even in 2010, using 2010 tech, this looks pretty damn good.
Because, like I said, they gave the team the resources and the time to do it right.
They're not trying to make this look authentic because this is not an authentic place and these are not authentic people. The places where they spent the money are on the costuming of the real people and the makeup and I guess just the practicality of what you are experiencing even in this digital world.
They built an actual world for this. They took what they did in Tron and expanded upon it. And the way they actually did it, there is like practical use. There are actual real sets with real costumes and real set pieces
Yeah.
intermixed with all of this digital world.
You could have, or at least the filmmakers could have, like added the artificial lights on the suits to make it glow more, or
Yeah, you
just
could have done
kinda-
it in post.
Yeah, they could cheat here and there, but instead they spent the money, they used the time wisely, and they created these actual suits that actually lit up. And some of the stuff that I was reading was that these light fixtures in the suits were so advanced and they kind of burned a little bit too hot to a point, but the batteries inside of them would only last for like 15 minutes. So there would be constantly people trying to replace the batteries in these things during filming. And it became a pain in the ass, not only for the filmmakers, but the actors too.
That would explain why the suits cost $13 million.
Yeah, all the costuming in this movie, $13 million of the budget just went to costuming.
And that is insane, but I love that they did that because truly you could do all of this in post. The original Tron did it in post. They filmed it in black and white, and then they had people go in there and add the lights on the suits in post. I don't know if they drew them on or they used computers or what they did.
It was a layer on top of the actual film that it was filmed on.
But it wasn't done for real. They didn't really have lights on their suits.
Sure.
But in 2010, they were like, well, we have the technology. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's make them all look really fucking cool.
And they work. It looks so great. And if you hadn't told me that, I would have just assumed this was done in post. Like, truly.
And there were moments here, like when Clue goes into his like lair and he's kind of milling about in where all the mirrors are, and he goes over by the fireplace where the little dodecahedron things, the bits from the first movie, you can see the light off of his suit reflecting on the stuff on the mantle, which looked incredible. Which
is another thing you would normally have to do in post if you were doing it all digitally, remembering to add the reflection.
Yeah, or you would notice that it wasn't there if you were paying attention if it was digital. Like, why isn't there a reflection of this light coming off of his body?
As opposed to, it's already there.
Yeah, you would notice that if you really cared, but because you did it practically, it is actually emitting off of his body. Yeah, it looks so fucking cool. So, I mean, that's basically how the movie looks. Like, they did everything practically as much as they can. Obviously, most of this is done on green screen, and the world is added in after the fact. But there are a couple of sections here that are in the real world, and I want to talk about how much this movie, when we first started, how much the movie looked and sounded like it was a Christopher Nolan Batman movie.
There was definitely in this movie vibes of like Batman Begins for me. Specifically Batman Begins, you know, the wayward son of this multi-billion dollar company who doesn't really want to be involved, but he's also like running around making trouble. When we watched the first Tron, we had a couple of different movie comparisons. So if you go back and listen to that episode, you can hear us talk about how we were getting total Star Wars and specifically The Wizard of Oz.
Yep.
Those were the two main ones we took away. But in Tron Legacy, yeah, I was absolutely getting that whole 360 skyscraper. He's gonna dive off of the building. There's a lone man standing there, which is like that shot many times in the Batman trilogy, where Batman is standing on the corner of a building and we're just swooping around him, and then he dives off the building.
Specifically, it's kind of how the city looks and how the city is filmed, and everything is at night because, of course, it's Batman. Everything is at night. And the kid has like his fucking lair that he escapes to. He's also got some skills of his own, like he's got that fucking motorcycle, which, hey, in the Dark Knight, he's driving a fucking motorcycle through the city. Yeah.
He's also an orphan.
Sure. Yeah. Even down to, hey, the instrumentation here in the music is very Hans Zimmer-like in that first section. So I dare you to go back and just watch that first section and not think about at least the first two Batman Nolan movies.
Which would make sense because the third one hadn't come out at the time of Tron Legacy.
It's true. But you had mentioned that we had thought about, okay, well, this is kind of like Star Wars in the original Tron. This is kind of like Star Wars. This is kind of like Wizard of Oz because they're going to meet the wizard. They're going to the Emerald City. That's the thing it's the big MacGuffin that they're trying to get to.
The real life people are also in the game.
Yeah, there's a representation of you in the game and the real world.
At the end of the movie, you're like, wait, was that real? Or did we just imagine that? Was it all a dream?
Yeah, exactly. But really, they kind of went back to the well again with the whole Star Wars thing in this movie. I mean, first of all, when we finally meet up with dear old dad, he's wearing a goddamn Jedi robe. Tell me that doesn't look like a Jedi robe from those movies.
Effectively, yes. They're drawing inspiration from Japanese culture, I assume. Like that whole Zen thing that he is explaining throughout the movie.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure if you looked into it, that's kind of where they're getting some of the inspiration for Star Wars. But they just really amped that up more in this movie because he's older and wiser and he is just trying to exist.
He's been in isolation.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then when he makes that appearance in the bar, and he's
Yeah.
all in the dark robes with the light on the inside, and he's just like touching the
he's
floor.
got
and
the Force.
He's got the fucking Force. Yes, that is an absolute Luke Skywalker old man Star Wars move.
He's got the power over this place, and
He's the creator.
He's been honing his Jedi abilities back in his lair. And yeah, those are the inspirations I'm sure they are completely cribbing from here. But I don't think they went too far. Honestly, I think they made it their own. Like, the people who made this movie, I don't think had anything to do with the original one, because number one, it's been for fucking ever since they made that original movie in 1982. But there was enough to build on to kind of make it their own without cribbing from too many other sources. I didn't get distracted by these things, but I could see where they were coming from.
And I don't know that it's intentional, or you and I just see it and go, that feels very Star Wars, because we're watching a sci-fi movie. We're watching, a movie with thematic elements that we have seen in other things before. But I did like how there were just enough little like winks and nods to the original Tron.
That was the next thing I was going to mention here, because you can't have a sequel to a beloved movie without having the little winks and nods to the fans and just the little details that you would not get. Like what I mentioned before about the two little bits on the top of his fireplace. That comes directly out of the first movie without... I mean, they didn't reintroduce them actually having a thing to do. It's just, hey, remember these two little guys?
It's an Easter egg. It's in plain sight. The people who have seen the movie know what that's supposed to represent.
Yeah, and then when Sam goes to the tower for the first time at the beginning of the movie, he uses his little device in order to open the big door. And he says the line, man, that's a big door. Same way he says it in the first movie.
Or like when he finds the secret like laboratory underneath the arcade, and there's a little plastic thing sitting on the couch covered in dust, and you said, oh, that's the thing he was playing with.
Yeah, that's the little thing about Mob that he's holding on to when he's on the couch when those two people come to get him.
It's like a little handheld game or something.
I don't know what that was.
But yeah, the two other people from the company in Tron go to Flynn's to tell him they know you're trying to hack into the system, so you got to stop. And he's fucking around with this toy.
Yeah, and in that same place, like the laser is right there. The console that he sits at is the same console that was in the main, I guess, office.
The villain's desk.
That Dillinger was using, which, by the way, when we're in the boardroom at the beginning of the movie where they're going to introduce, hey, we're going to do OS 12. We're going to get into that in a second. But an uncredited role, Cillian Murphy, speaking of Batman.
And he plays Dillinger's son. But I did a double take because they show him, but he's very like shaggy haired and he didn't say anything. He just sort of nodded. And I was like, I hope they go back to him because I'm pretty sure that was Cillian Murphy.
I had
and
the
it
same
was.
thought, yeah.
This was that weird time in his career where he still wasn't doing a lot of starring movies.
Yeah, and in the trivia, it said that they're maybe trying to hint at a sequel to this movie because, hey, if there's a Dillinger, there can be a through line through all three movies, and maybe he can be the villain in the third one. Which, as long as we're talking about this boardroom scene, I feel like the company has basically morphed into a kind of Apple, or it's kind of a combination of Apple and Atari. These two companies that got formed in the 1970s that were huge back then, but Apple is really the only one that has survived and remained relevant. But during this meeting, they kind of reveal that they have developed an operating system, much like Apple has their operating systems for their computers and their phones and whatever other devices they have. And up to this point, they were giving the operating systems away for free. And this next version, OS 12, was going to be a paid version because, hey, we got to make money.
And of course, Bruce Boxleitner, the only other person from the original Tron who's in this movie.
He's on the board.
He's on the board and he says, well, what's the difference? What have we done to improve on the operating system? And the chairman of the board says, we added a 12 to it.
We added a 12 to it. And in this case, they added a price tag to it too.
Meaning they were pushing out the same product with basically no changes.
Literally,
and they were going to charge for it.
Yeah, they let it slip here that the OS was named Flynn OS. Now they're changing it to the company name OS, which again kind of harkens back to all the stuff that was happening with the board members in Wayne Enterprises in the Batman movie, where, well, Bruce Wayne is nowhere to be found, so the board members are just running the company in his stead. Then he finally appears, and then Bruce Wayne starts to appear again and is coming to the meetings, and he can basically do whatever he wants to the company because he owns all the shares. Same thing in this movie. Sam owns all the shares.
He's the majority shareholder anyway.
Right. He doesn't own all of them, but because Kevin Flynn is his actual name, but Jeff Bridges was basically declared dead, so all of his shares in the company went to his son. Guess who gets to call the shots now?
But he's not interested in running the company. However, he does flex his muscle when he sees fit. So he has decided, no, we shouldn't be charging for this, and he just puts it out there for free.
Yeah, and apparently he does some kind of prank once a year to the company, basically to remind them that, hey guys, I can fuck with you guys anytime I want.
I'm still, strictly speaking, in charge of this company, even if I don't have the title.
Or I am not exerting my power on you. But that's pretty much all there is outside of the Tron world. Once we get in, it's kind of go. We immediately go into the fucking games.
Again, they start with the piece that you're familiar with, where we just have different programs fighting each other.
Yeah.
So it's gladiator style. There's people in the stands watching, chanting, and it's just get on the motorcycle, throw your disc. It's what at least the first chapter of the original Tron is.
Yeah, it's introducing what it is that these programs are redesigned to do. And in this movie, they're just kind of upping the ante all the way, where these programs are being, I guess they call it, repurposed in a way that it is entertainment for themselves. I don't really understand why they feel the need to have this huge arena battle for programs. I don't really understand that, but
because it looks cool,
it's
Trent.
fucking fun. It
looks cool.
Yeah.
They take the idea of the light cycle, which, if anybody knows one thing about Tron, it is the light cycles. And the way they do it here, with the trail behind them, it looks like liquid.
Yeah.
So they up the design of what the cycle looks like, and then the path it leaves, instead of being this straight line, it's very fluid, literally fluid.
Right. They're also able to take actual curves rather than have to turn in a 90-degree angle, which again, hey, it's advancements in technology in the Tron world.
And they do more 3 dimensions because they go
They can
up
go
and
up
down.
and down. Yeah, they can go over the top of the trail that the other guys leave behind and not crash as a result. And when they do crash, you see all of the liquid just kind of become liquid again, and it goes everywhere. Which I think you also really liked, how everything kind of broke apart and became pixelated.
Yes, I really liked it when, in the disc battle, when they're throwing the discs at each other in the beginning, and somebody kind of gets hit by one and sort of explodes, it all became very pixelated little squares. But they took that to such an extent, throughout the scenery. Near the end of the movie, when it's been revealed Tron is alive and he's just been repurposed as a bad guy,
Right.
He has this moment of glory where he takes out Clue, or tries to, but he falls in the water. As he is falling through the water, there are bubbles, and the bubbles are square, Trent.
Yeah.
That was driving me wild, because I'm just like, oh my God, the level of detail that went into this. It doesn't need to be there. We didn't need to make square bubbles, but we did, and I was giddy. It just made me so happy. And then there were other things that were from the original movie that they just kind of improved upon. So they had those, I don't even know what they're called, the little spaceship with the kind of handles that come down, the claws. Yeah, they're very, very rudimentary in Tron. And this one, it's just like, hello, what if we ran that through an ultra-modern sci-fi spaceship filter?
Those looked a lot cooler than they did in the first movie, because the actual transport pod up at the top can travel all the way down the legs of this thing. And yeah, it's again the idea that these filmmakers making Tron Legacy, they understood where they were trying to get to in 82, that they could just expand upon and say, okay, this I think is where you were going with this. In this world, it's a lot more modern. Like I said before, the light cycles can now go in a curve. They can go up and down. It's just building on what was already there.
And then later in the movie, we have a big chase scene with, instead of light cycles, they did light jets. So they took the same
Right.
concept, but applied it to something else. And it's just like, oh my God, now it's flying through the air and you can spin and it gets the swirly tail
Speaking
behind
of
it.
more Star Wars shit, in that last sequence there when they're flying around, Sam gets into the cockpit of the turret, I guess you could call it, and starts shooting up the place.
Yeah, we got a dogfight. And you could take that back to simply history and World War II, which
Of
is
course.
where they designed that idea for Star Wars.
I mean, I was waiting for them to say, "Don't get cocky." Honestly.
My favorite moment, I think, watching this movie, though, was during that scene, because he's back there with his gun. They're flying through. They're leaving these crazy trails. Planes are crashing into each other. And you are sitting there watching, and you went, nice. And then cut to Jeff Bridges in the cockpit, looks at Cora, and he goes, nice. That was my favorite thing.
I mean, it was fucking cool. And that's the only thing that you can really say about this movie is that it looks cool. It sounds cool. And as long as I'm talking about sounding, Betsy, before I talk about that, I'm going to take a quick break, and then we're going to talk about Daft Punk. We'll be right back.
Critics everywhere are raving about patreon.com/neverseenitpod. Superfan Stephanie says, all this for $5 a month? Incredible. Phineas Butterfield of the New England Journal of Medicine calls it available content. Betsy's grandma says, what's a podcast? Don't miss your chance to experience this phenomenon. Join today.
Betsy, I'm finding that the more I hear this kind of music, the more I kind of like it. Daft Punk did the soundtrack for this movie. They did the score, they did all the music for it, and it's just incredible. The fucking, like, dirty techno. That's the only term I can think of to describe what I heard throughout the duration of this movie. It's dirty techno, and I fucking loved it.
When the movie started, we were all of a couple of minutes in, and I said, I'm digging this soundtrack.
Yeah.
This soundtrack goes really, really hard. And it wasn't until we were almost halfway through the movie that you remembered Daft Punk did the score for this.
Literally, it's right before they have their little cameo in the club scene. There was this other song happening, and I'm like, Jesus, I think I know who did the soundtrack to this, isn't it? Oh God, what's the name of them? And then I saw them.
Two men in robotic light-up helmets up in the booth.
Yeah, I said, oh, it's them. It's them. It's Daft Punk.
Genuinely, because we are 15 years removed from when this movie was in the theater, I am quite sure I knew that Daft Punk had something to do with this.
Yeah.
But I had forgotten completely. But oh my God, they went hard on this soundtrack.
Yeah.
And it's because these two are fucking nerds who love Tron.
They loved Tron so much. So the story that I read in the trivia was that the director went to Daft Punk to say, hey, I've got an idea to make a sequel to Tron. I've heard maybe you guys really like Tron and am interested to see whether or not you would like to participate to make some music for the movie. And they're like, hold on, you're making this? Let me ask you some questions, because of course they absolutely love Tron, but the director doing the interview of Daft Punk basically got the tables turned on him because Daft Punk started asking a whole bunch of questions of the director, basically saying, I'm interviewing you because we need to know before we say yes to this that you're not going to fuck this up.
What are your intentions with this property we
What
love
are your
so much?
intentions with my Tron?
Because if you are going to say, oh, I'm going to take Tron and completely change it, I'm going to reimagine it and re-envision it and retcon the shit out of it, Daft Punk wants nothing to do with that. But they had enough of a conversation with this guy to know he was going to respect the original property, and they were on board with it. And oh my God, thank God they are, because seriously, I'm obsessed with this fucking score.
It's kind of the best thing about this movie is the music.
It is techno, but then they translated into like score, symphonic, rumbling. I could feel it through the sound system at different parts. I wish this had been nominated for an Academy Award. I get why it wasn't, because people are very small-minded when it comes to score, unfortunately, sometimes.
Yep.
This got nominated for exactly one Oscar, and it was sound editing, which, okay, fine, I will accept it. But if I were a voter in 2010, Daft Punk, Academy Award nominees, let's go. Let's go.
Hard agree with that. But in this same scene where they have the cameo, where the helmeted Daft Punk is in their booth making all the music happen while the fight scene is happening, we are also introduced to a guy you had no idea was in this movie.
No idea.
Michael Sheen, in his all-white outfit, all-white hair, and his cane.
Michael Sheen coming out of nowhere, trying to get on my short list for the Peter Stormare Spirit Award at the end of the year.
You're right.
Because he is ridiculous in this. He's got that fucking cane. He did a Charlie Chaplin
He did the
move,
fucking Charlie Chaplin move in
where
this
he's
movie.
like swinging it and like
Yeah.
shuffling. Why? And giggling like a maniac and dancing and shooting little lasers out of his glass cane. Like, what is this?
Speaking of fans of Tron, Michael Sheen is another huge Tron person, and his agent did not want to let Disney know that he was such a huge fan, because then they were going to lowball his paycheck. But no, he was ecstatic about getting in this movie. He loves Tron so much.
He had to play it cool to get the
Yeah.
part, because otherwise he was going to freak them out a little bit.
Exactly. So yeah, he's just this little weirdo. I don't understand really plot-wise where he kind of fits in. Like, he has one name, but he's actually this other guy. I don't really remember what the story was or understand what the story is around him. I don't care, though.
So they said his name was Zeus, and
Yep.
that he has been in this world for a very, very long time. So the way I was interpreting it is he was very early coding in the program. He was there since the beginning, so to speak, which is why he's got kind of a following. But he also might have been one of the other group, the Isos, because he says he had to change his name and evolve to protect himself.
Right.
So it might just be, reinventing himself so he can survive, because all of the other ones were wiped out.
Yeah. So I guess we can talk about the ISOs now, I think.
Yes, please explain, because like when we watched Tron and you were picking up on all of these coding terms that they just casually throw in there.
It's less about that, right, for this one.
For this one, yes. But in the first one, you were picking up on terms that I didn't understand, and it was the same for different reasons in this. When they started talking about ISOs, explain to me what that is. I wanted to ask you while we were watching it, but I didn't want to stop the movie cold. I figured we could have that conversation here.
So in the context of the movie, ISO doesn't really make any sense. Like, these people, quote unquote, basically manifested out of nothing. They were just created through what Clue and Flynn were doing with the code. They were trying to make this utopia, and these people, again, came out of nowhere and just said hello.
They were byproducts of the coding.
Kinda.
Somehow.
Kinda. They didn't really fit into what the human stuff was. They didn't really fit into where these other programs were. It's maybe related to AI or something similar to that. I didn't really get that.
Okay, but that's in the movie. But what
Yes.
is it? Because you kind of giggled.
Outside of the movie, an ISO is basically an image of a disc, okay? Back in the old days, when you bought software, you could put it into your computer and it would install whatever program that you wanted to install.
It pulled it off of the disk and
Yeah.
put it into the software of the computer.
It's basically a portable piece of data storage. But in some communities, you don't trade physical disks anymore. You trade around what is called an ISO. An ISO is basically a single big file that represents everything that is on that disk. And you can just send that one file, that one individual file, and it represents everything. So when you talk about it like that, you can kind of take some kind of interpretation here to the movie because, hey, everybody has their own disks.
So basically, as they were kind of uploading data into this world that they were building, they were just sort of created?
Kinda.
Okay.
That's where the movie kind of loses
That's where
me.
I was like, why are you giggling at this term?
I just think
because
it's funny.
I didn't know what it meant.
I just think it's funny that in 2010 they're talking about fucking ISOs.
Well, you can't even, in 2010, probably hardly get a computer with a disk drive.
Yeah. So I guess maybe in 2010 it was far back enough that, yes, people were still using actual CDs to do stuff, but not so much anymore.
But within the world, they're basically like a super version of the programming.
I read that they're so different that their quote-unquote DNA was a triple-stranded type of DNA, not a dual.
Like the coding coded more. It was basically like, because he made Clue and Clue is designing this world, somehow the coding coded harder.
Honestly, that is a better explanation than I can provide. I have no idea what these people are.
But it almost doesn't matter because then he just wipes them all out because they threaten him.
Exactly. Clue was threatened by the ISOs because then he lost his purpose. He and Flynn were creating this world to be whatever the thought of perfection was, at least in the mind of Flynn at the time. Well, things evolve. What is perfection now is not what you thought about 20 years ago or whatever.
Especially when it comes to programming, because the best programming in 1982 versus the best programming in 2025 in coding language is such a big leap. It's so different.
It's just different. That's the thing. It's not like it's better or anything like that. There are plenty of computers running right now based on code that was written in the 80s and 90s.
And they'll never upgrade because it's so perfect for what it's supposed to do.
It's so efficient at what it does because it is so small. The best coders out there, my understanding, because I am I am not a coder, I'm not a programmer, but the best programmers out there make extremely small programs that operate independently. When you look on your Windows computer, when you install a program, it's got fucking thousands and thousands of different kinds of files that it has to put on there. But there's guys out there who literally write one little executable file that does everything that you need. It doesn't need to save any additional files. It's all self-encompassed.
And that's all the nerdy shit that people who are coders and people who are hackers and people who love computers take out of these movies that I will just never fully understand. I get it abstractly, but I don't really understand the logistics of it. And it doesn't really matter for the movie.
When you think about the first movie, like there were people named RAM.
Yeah.
You know, nobody knew what the hell RAM was in 1982. People know a lot more now because those kinds of computer terms are a lot more commonplace. Like you understand what RAM is, you understand what a gigabyte is, and all these other kind of simplistic terms that have just permeated the lexicon. People understand these words now, but 30 years ago, nobody knew what they were.
And in the context of the movie, he basically has this breakthrough of coding, of science, whatever you want to call it, in 1989, disappears because he gets sucked into this world and trapped.
Yeah.
And then the world is just sort of creating itself for another 20 plus years. And that's just kind of the environment that we're introduced to. So in that world, we have Clue, and I think it's really important we talk about this in this episode.
Yeah.
You have Jeff Bridges, the old man, but you also have Jeff Bridges as Clue, the de-aged character that he was in 1982.
Yes.
And in 2010, I would argue that this is the least good-looking thing in this movie because they didn't do de-aging, because we didn't do that yet. This is before we really did a lot of de-aging technology.
My understanding is that the tech that was used on this is the same tech that the filmmakers of that Benjamin Button movie did.
Okay. Where they kind of still use a live person with dots on their face, but then they just generate an image over the top of it.
Correct.
And it looks okay. Like, it looks like Jeff Bridges. It does look like Jeff Bridges.
Yeah, he is recognizable as Jeff Bridges here, but again, sitting here in 2025, looking at this now, and even looking at all of the other de-aged actors that we have seen in films since this movie was out, it hasn't improved all that much, honestly.
No, this looks like more of like a computer-generated video game type of thing where you're just completely replacing the actor as opposed to taking the base which is actually his head, actually his features, actually the muscles moving underneath,
And actually
then
having the
developing
actor-
around it.
Yeah, and actually having the actor on set performing all this stuff. No, this is just projected onto this body that I don't think is Jeff Bridges' body.
I doubt it very much because there's too many scenes where they're together. And
Yeah.
so you're going to need a stand-in anyway. And he's supposed to be physically younger.
Correct.
So you need him to move younger. Look, I have gone on this rant many times.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you go and watch The Irishman, you've got a 70-some, 80-some-year-old Robert De Niro trying to play 20 years old, but he moves like an old man. And it is absolutely infuriating to me because he moves like an old man. In this movie, they at least have a younger person, so he has the physicality correct. Because Jeff Bridges moves in his own way in his 60s.
Yeah, and I think the most recent example of them doing this is the most recent Indiana Jones movie with Harrison Ford, where my understanding is Harrison Ford is on set. They're just filming him like normal, and then after the fact, they go and use whatever de-aging tech that they have to make him look like young Harrison Ford.
But then they have another guy doing the stunts and things, and then they just sort of superimpose the face over the top.
Right.
So it's a mix. They did a lot to do both things in that movie in particular.
Yeah, and the tech has gotten very, very good. It's not perfect. It's never going to be perfect. But because they actually have the real actor making the face movements and everything like that, it helps.
It's the problem of teeny tiny muscles in the face. Like, it's always a tension thing. Like, looking at this in particular, it doesn't look great when he's opening his mouth and it's all lazy. He's yelling, but his jaw is like hanging loose.
Yeah.
So it's never going to look great. Did it bother me to the point of distraction? No, because I kind of just accepted it is what it is.
Yeah. As I was watching it, I was just kind of cringing. Especially near the end, because there are longer takes of this de-aged guy. And I just kind of had to look away at some points and just stop paying attention to the face and look at other things, because it wasn't good. I mean, it's as simple as that. And as far as just talking about quality here, I looked up the Rotten Tomatoes score of this movie, and it's at 51% critic score. I can see why somebody going to this movie would say, you know, this is just a big old CG fest, and there's not much here, especially when you're talking about the plot, because plot-wise, it's kind of incomprehensible at moments, and I just kind of had to let things go a little bit, even though I've seen the first movie twice now, and I kind of understand what's going on and why things are happening, but at the end of the day, it's just kind of a cool action movie.
Trent, I think if your complaints are a big CG fest with very little plot, there is exactly one movie property that gets away with that, and it's Tron, because that's the first movie. It is a big CG fest with very little plot. That is what the
You're
first
not wrong.
movie is, which is why it wasn't very well received, but got a cult following. And the only reason you get Tron Legacy is because enough people joined that cult for them to say, maybe this is worth our time. And my understanding is people who like Tron like both movies.
Yes, and I am in that camp. I like Tron, and I like Tron Legacy. But I would say, before we end this thing, there's one person we haven't talked about at all, and she's on the goddamn poster, and that's Olivia Wilde. She is apparently the last ISO that survived the genocide, which is a heavy topic to be thrown into your Tron Legacy thing, but I don't know. What did you think about her? Do you think that she actually served a purpose in this movie? Do you think that the acting was believable as this kind of, I don't know, she's kind of a child, like learning?
Yes, I think in that regard, she was good because she has this innocent, like, I'm just fascinated with the real world and I want to learn all the things. Jules Verne is my favorite. Do you know him? What's he like?
Yeah.
You know, that kind of wide-eyed wonder, because she's basically an infant in the world of programming, even though she's been around for, as they say, many, many cycles. But she's mostly there because Jeff Bridges' character saved her. And so she's kind of beholden to him. I think, of course, it's just a way to get some female presence in this movie because otherwise it's mostly devoid. And they didn't go into that weird place of let's make her super sexy and that's her only benefit to the movie.
Especially with a gal like Olivia Wilde.
Yes.
That is kind of, I don't know, she's cast in a lot of movies where she just is that.
And a lot of sci-fis do that. Like when Sam shows up in the world and those 4 women come out of nowhere, we're tiptoeing towards it, but they're all fully covered up. They're just these beautiful women who come in, get him in his suit, and then disappear.
He didn't make any kind of crack at,
Nope.
I mean, the only crack that he makes is, hey, there's a zipper for those, as they start to undress him.
And the movie avoids doing the thing that you hate. Sam and Cora do not kiss in the movie. There's not a romance here. It's just, they have mutual interests, basically.
Yeah, she is infatuated with his humanity, and I want to learn from this person. And the biggest question coming out of this movie, Clue here is amassing this army of programs, and they're off trying to use the portal to get out into the world, and they're going to take over the world? Okay, but my question is, one of these programs does get out. Olivia Wilde, Cora, does get out. How? Why?
They don't really develop it fully. They basically say with Jeff Bridges' disc, with his specific data, because he is the creator, because he has been there the longest, he has the most data, he has the most information, it basically, I guess, gives you a free pass. I guess is how we could interpret that.
Maybe that's what it was. Maybe because it's his disc and they plugged it into the ship, and that's going to allow the ship to pass through the portal and then come into the real world, I guess.
It's a little loosey-goosey, but we're just not going to worry too much about it because
it's only one person that gets through.
It's one person.
She gets to see the sunrise and go on a motorcycle ride with this guy.
And of course, his whole thing at the beginning is the exploration of improving humans, like figuring out how to solve diseases and things of that sort. And she has complex programming that can help them do that.
Which, I mean, one of the reasons why we're covering Tron Legacy is, hey, the day we are recording this, the brand new trailer for the brand new Tron movie just got released this morning. So there is a continuation of the Tron story. I have no idea whether or not fucking Jeff Bridges is going to be in the next one. I have no idea what connection there is to this movie or any of the movies whatsoever, or even if it's going to try to continue on this story. What from her living in this world now, what is that going to influence the real world? What is she going to provide to humans?
I think they're kind of teeing up the way a lot of these legacy sequels do. What is the future of this property? Because Jeff Bridges can't do this forever. So they actually put a button on his storyline because Clue and Flynn are sort of one and the same. Because he is the programmer, because he is the creator, he can actually destroy Clue. But it would destroy himself in the process because they become so entangled within the world of the grid.
And I guess at the end of the movie here, they kind of destroy all of this world.
Yeah, the world blows up because Jeff Bridges blows up. That's the way I took that. So I think it was just a way to put closure on that storyline. Now, Tron was a little ambiguous because he's been there the whole time. And then, plot twist, that guy in the helmet, that's Tron. He's been repurposed. And he went into the water, and we didn't conclusively see him die.
Well, we also saw him turn from red back to blue.
Yes.
His lights turn back into blue, which means he is no longer corrupted, as it were.
And even though the grid had this big old explosion, it seemed like it was just that city. It wasn't like the entirety of the program went away.
Also, Sam used his little computer device, and I think what he did was he probably just downloaded his dad out of this world. Honestly, is I think what happened here.
He took whatever he could salvage from the program, put it on a little file. And setting up a sequel, like you said, we've got the Dillinger character, the
Yep.
son. Maybe Cillian Murphy will show up again. We don't know.
I doubt it.
He's a lot bigger star now. It's 15 years later. And the two of them, he's going to like go back and take over this company now. He's ready.
Yep,
He's
yep.
ready to be in charge of this Fortune 500 company. He's got this other program out in the real world. So it's just, where do you go next? How do you advance technology?
Yeah, I don't think
with
anything.
these pieces.
I don't think anything was destroyed when Clue and Flynn kind of came back together. Yes, they kind of blew up, but I mean, the code is still there. So I think the connection here is going to be Sam. He downloaded everything onto his little stick. He's going to take the company over again. And then what? Will Cora be the key to whatever is next? Is she even in the next movie?
Or are we going to completely reinvent the story again with a different group of people? Like, do we have ties to the original Tron in the way that we did to the first one?
I mean, it's been a long time since 2010. It's hard to really say that and not cringe a little bit, but 15 years is quite a long time in the world of technology, and you can still do a lot more with tech just making movies now. So the world of Tron is, I think, still kind of ripe for a great story. And I mean, Betsy, we've never done this before, but I think we're going to take a pause here. We're going to go and watch that trailer, and we're going to come back and give you our reaction. We'll be right back. Betsy, it's happening.
Oh, shit. That was sweet. It's just a teaser. It's just a little taste.
Yeah, just a 1.5 minute little teaser there, but they have invaded the real world. I don't know who they is,
We're
but
going into the real world.
fucking light cycles and those ships are in the real world and fucking shit up.
And that was absolutely Jeff Bridges' voice. That was
Of course.
unmistakable.
Of course, I didn't recognize anybody else in that trailer that we've met before in this other stuff.
As far as like characters from the previous movies, no.
Yeah,
But we've got Greta Lee and
Yep.
the unmistakable face of Gillian Anderson,
Yes.
who I'm very excited to
You're
see.
very excited about that. I thought I might have seen or recognized a face inside that helmet of one of the people on the bikes. I don't know.
I don't know.
Honestly,
It was so fast.
It kind of looked like a de-aged Bruce Boxleitner.
Oh, like maybe it was Tron again?
I think that might have been Tron again.
Oh, interesting. We're going to have to go online and see.
We might have to-
Because
yeah.
there's people who have already broken down for 45
Oh, yeah.
minutes, everything in this 1.5-minute teaser.
Literally, we got up from the chair, went over to watch it on the TV, and we came right back over here. So we've seen nothing else. This is our initial reaction. But again, it looks fucking cool, and it sounds great because, holy shit, 9 Inch Nails?
Oh my God.
It's not just Trent Reznor.
If we were not excited enough about Daft Punk,
Fuck
now we're
yes.
going to get 9 Inch Nails.
Fuck yeah.
Holy shit.
Okay. All right. That is our reaction to the trailer. We hope that you go and watch it if you haven't already. It looks really fucking cool. Yeah, man. Light cycles in the real world and these fucking ships everywhere. It's happening. It's happening in October. So I guess maybe look forward to that. I don't know. So, I mean, that's really all I had to say about Tron Legacy. Betsy, did you have anything else? I got nothing.
Just to briefly touch on the fact that I love how they have aged this character of Flynn with Jeff Bridges and just made him more Jeff Bridges. Like he's got, as I was calling it during the movie, Bridgesisms.
Bridgesisms, yes.
Where he's like, you're messing with my whole Zen thing, man.
And when he's talking about the ISOs, he says, biodigital jazz, man. And how many times does he end his sentences, man?
He could have done it more. I assure you he could have.
Honestly, he probably did it on the set, and they likely had to just tell him, I know you want to say it, but you got to stop it, man.
It's also interesting that this is kind of the movie he did, probably the biggest thing he did right after winning an Oscar.
Yeah, and I appreciate a guy like Jeff Bridges has embraced, I mean, kind of himself. The image that he projects is this kind of old hippie, to be honest. And he is essentially just turned into his character from Big Lebowski. He is just the dude.
And many directors have encouraged including elements of himself in his other roles.
Yeah, and I feel like maybe he is insisting upon it himself because he doesn't want to be pigeonholed into being anything but himself. So yes, at the very least, I'm glad that he is going to be included in this next one for whatever that's worth. I mean, he's not that old. I looked it up. He's only 75. So he's got a lot more years ahead of him.
But doing big action movies in your 70s gets increasingly more difficult. When he was 60 for the last one.
Sure. But it's not like he had to do a bunch of action shit in this one either, in Legacy.
No, he got to come in and do some like cool ninja Star Wars Jedi shit.
Even fucking Harrison Ford, he was trying to do a lot of his stunts in the new Indiana Jones movies, at least the last two of them anyway. But he kept breaking his legs, so they had to tell him to stop.
Yeah, stop doing the stunts. Don't do that when you're an old man.
You're a really old man. But all right, Tron Legacy. I like this one. I'm sure there's a lot of folks out there who have thoughts about this movie and the original Tron and the new trailer. Tell us what you think about all three. Email us neverseenitpod@gmail.com. Today we're going to clean up a couple of old emails. One of them came from our superfan Stephanie with her Oscar rankings for, the Oscars that came out, I don't know, about a month ago.
We've been doing these so out of sequence, and
Yeah.
the emails come at inopportune times. So you get them when you get them, kids.
Yeah, sometimes we do really, really long episodes and we're out of steam by the end of it. From Stephanie about Oscars 2024. She says, I did not get to see A Complete Unknown or I'm Still Here, so here are my rankings of the top 8 Best Picture nominees that I watched. Number 1 was Nickel Boys, number 2, The Substance, number 3, Conclave, 4, Anora, 5, Wicked, 6, Dune 2, 7, The Brutalist, parentheses, the acting is great, but I don't love the movie overall. And then for some reason we skipped to number 10 out of the 8, and she says Amelia Perez. So
She knows where that one's going to be regardless.
Yeah, Amelia Perez catching strays, even though it's well past. And then she says, here are my picks for the other categories. Best Actor, Adrian Brody, even though I didn't see Sing Sing for Coleman Domingo. Best Actress, Demi Moore. Supporting Actor, Kieran Culkin. Supporting Actress, Felicity Jones. Original Screenplay, A Real Pain or The Substance. Adapted Screenplay, Conclave. Director, Coralie Fargette. And to finish, she says, I'm very excited to see where things end up. I would love to see if any of my top 4 won. Love you guys, from Superfan Stephanie.
Well, Stephanie, we're in the future, so I hope that all of those questions have been answered to your satisfaction. Yeah. I also would love to know if she managed to finish watching the last couple that she didn't get to see.
Yeah. Those two, I'm Still Here and A Complete Unknown, they're definitely worth watching, if for nothing else, just to watch the acting in them. Like I said, I don't give a shit about Bob Dylan or any of his music or the fans of his stuff. Timothy Chalamet puts on a fucking clinic in that movie. He's great. So thanks again to Stephanie for sending in her rankings. Moving on, we're going to read an email from our other super fan, Mitch from Saskatoon, entitled Old Episodes. Hello, friends. I have had the time to catch up on a few random episodes. I know you encourage your listeners to do that from time to time.
We sure do.
We do. Here are my thoughts on a few. Number 1, Starship Troopers. I can see why some people like this. Not my kind of movie, though. It's like they said, let's reboot Star Trek, but let's make it as if they're all red shirts and we'll make it as gory as possible. I give it 3 out of 10 beautifully crafted and non-exported pure Canadian maple syrup bottles. Yeah, making jokes about import-export, are ya? We're not getting into that. Number 2, Barbie. I finally got to catch 2023's big movie. A decent film, but I thought it was a little overrated. Funny at parts, but the film just lacked something for me. Let's go 6 maple syrups. Yeah, I think you, Betsy, you had a similar thought. Like, you did not have that high on your list that year.
I liked the movie. I've seen it a couple of times now.
Yep.
But it didn't hit me the way it hit a lot of people.
Yeah, we haven't seen that now for almost a full year now, because I remember rewatching it for your birthday.
I made you watch it on my birthday because I insisted.
Yeah. He finishes up by saying, going through your collection, I still have to watch a few more. I know Wild Wild West is one that I have seen, but don't remember it being that bad. But then again, I was probably 12 or 13, looking forward to a rewatch. I don't know about that, Mitch. Have fun in the Canadian summer, Mitch, a.k.a. Superfan. Thank you very much, Mitch, for that.
And of course, we are once again in the future, so I hope he has since been able to seek out Wild Wild West.
Why do you hope such a thing, Betsy?
Because I want to know what people think about movies. And some people like things more than us, and that's
true.
okay.
It's true. Thanks again to both of our superfans for sending in their thoughts. If you, dear listener, would like to be a superfan like Mitch and Stephanie, you can do so by emailing us neverseenitpod@gmail.com. If you're not down with email, that's cool. We're on all the social medias. You can find all the links in every episode description, along with a link to get you over to Patreon, which is patreon.com/neverseenitpod, where there you can sign up for $5 a month and get access to a whole bunch of extra content that Betsy and I have been building over there for the past 15 plus months. There's a whole lot of stuff over there, including romantic movies, random movies, our favorite movies,
Horror movies
now with Never Scream It 101, and a whole other show that we're not actually talking about movies. It's just us talking about a topic. Again, patreon.com/neverseenitpod. A reminder, if you're gonna do it, we thank you, but just a tip, don't sign up via the Patreon app on Apple. Go to the website on a computer or just go to the website through your browser, sign up there. Otherwise, it's going to charge you extra money, and we don't want to have that happen. But however you sign up, we welcome you over to Patreon. There's a lot of fun stuff over there. But with that is going to be the end of Tron Legacy. Next week, we're continuing on with Sci-Fi Sunday, not with a sequel, however. But Betsy, what are we doing for number 3?
We are doing a movie that neither of us have seen from the 1970s, where there's actually quite a lot of sci-fi if you know where to look.
And this is going to be a pre-Star Wars sci-fi, if you can believe it.
Yes, indeed. We are going to be watching Logan's Run.
Logan's Run, a movie that is kind of a mystery to both of us, but you're going to have to come back next week for another episode of Never Seen It. My name is Trent.
My name is Betsy.
We'll catch you next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.